Does the extended universe of the 1982 movie The Thing have the answers to the fates of the final two characters left alive? Does the comic book or the video game have the answers to whether Childs and or MacReady have been assimilated, or did they both just freeze to death? And are either of these extensions considered canon by John Carpenter himself? Many of you out there suggested that I check them out, so I did, and I got a lot of shit to talk about. So recently I posted a video about the ending of The Thing and the hint that John Carpenter gave a few weeks ago about the ending of the movie and the true nature of Childs and MacReady. It's the first video on this channel to gain a substantial amount of views, and for that I thank you all so much. But what also was so special was the number of well thought out theories and opinions that were left in the comments section. I truly appreciate that, and I love engaging with you all. More than just a few of you brought up The Thing comic book and video game and claimed that they were Carpenter approved canon and that they answered the questions that the movie just didn't. Starting in 1991, Dark Horse Comics released its first in a batch of 3 miniseries that tied directly to the characters in the original movie. The first 2-issue series was written by Chuck Farrer and drawn by John Higgins and is titled The Thing from Another World. This was not so much as an homage to Howard Hawks' 1951 film, but more so of an attempt to avoid any confusion with Marvel Comics character The Thing from the Fantastic Four. Speaking of, check out the FF video we made. Hey, and maybe subscribe while you're at it. The series starts where the movie ends, with MacReady and Childs, both alive, making their way to the Antarctic coastline. They're eventually picked up by a Japanese whaling ship. Words and drawings happen, and then they ultimately end up back at Outpost 31. Throw in some Argentinians, Navy SEALs, and a healthy dose of mistrust, and stir that up with a thing monster with bad intentions, and you got yourself a party. The second issue and series finale ends on a submarine where Childs, now confirmed to be human, sabotages the sub, killing everyone on board, including the Thing, while Mac is propelled to the water's surface, left alive to fight yet another day. If this is indeed considered to be canon, it confirms that both Childs and MacReady were both human at the end of the original film. The second series from 1992 ran for 4 issues and was titled The Thing from Another World, Climate of Fear, and was written by John Arcudi and penciled by Jim W. Somerville. This picks up where the last comic book series left off, with Mac on the brink of hypothermia. Mac eventually ends up on a base in mainland Argentina. Hijinks ensue, and Mac ends up chasing down another creature that surprisingly gets torched by an American commando unit led by none other than the previously thought to be deceased Childs. By issue 3, Childs admits that MacReady has not been assimilated, but in fact that he himself is actually the Thing. The transformed Childs/Thing chases down MacReady, only to be stopped and quickly destroyed by a second group of American commandos. The third and final miniseries, titled The Thing from Another World, Eternal Vows, was released in 1993 and was again 4 issues. Written by Dave DeVries and penciled by Paul Gulacy. Here we move away from Argentina and end up in the streets of New Zealand. Not much happens that is relatable to the fans of the film, other than that Mac is still alive and he's still out there killing things. The series ends with Mac maintaining his humanity. In 2002, a company called Computer Artworks released a squad-based third-person shooter survival horror video game for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. The game picks up 3 months after the original movie ends and follows 2 teams of U.S. Special Forces as they explore both the remains of Outpost 31 as well as the ill-fated Norwegian camp. You play as a captain named Blake and take orders from a man named Colonel Whitley. There's a host of other soldiers that are along the ride with you to help you fight this Thing and also plant seeds of mistrust among your ranks. Early in the game, Blake stumbles across the dead body of Childs, who appears to have succumbed to the elements and has frozen to death. MacReady is nowhere to be found. The game continues with several nods and Easter eggs from the original movie to keep fans interested.
Now I'm gonna show you what I already know.
Now I'll show you what I already know.
At some point, we are introduced to a Dr. Sean Faraday, who has an uncanny resemblance to a certain movie director. Although not voiced by John Carpenter, he did approve the use of his likeness for this game. Later on in the game, the plot thickens, and you find out the superiors have bad intentions and are looking to use the Thing as a bioweapon or some shit. You know that old gag, it's been used tons of times in other films. Faraday is not on board with all this, and as soon as he voices his objections, he gets popped in the back and dies in a pool of his own blood. Colonel Whitney is on the take, and it turns out he's injected himself with the Thing virus, which makes him impervious to fire or something. The game ends with Whitney transforming into a giant withered-looking sunflower monster, and he dies in flames as our hero Blake is whisked away in a helicopter piloted by who? None other than the sombrero-wearing and very human-looking MacReady himself.
What's your name, smartass?
MacReady.
So, which of these are considered to be the true sequel to the 1982 movie? Because it can't be both. In the comic books, both men survive with their humanity intact until Childs eventually gets assimilated and destroyed. In the video game, Childs ends up freezing to death and MacReady lives on. I assume you could argue in both cases that Childs dies and Mac lives, but both stories are very, very different. But most importantly, what does Carpenter have to say? Many of you have commented about either of these two iterations being true Carpenter-approved canon. I searched the internet far and wide and came up empty-handed. I've seen many people claim that Carpenter said this and he said that, but I found no quotes or interviews from the man himself. I'm not saying they don't exist, I'm just saying I haven't found any. Now when it comes to the expanded universe and Carpenter says, I'm fine with this, I wouldn't get it misconstrued with him saying, this is the way it is. The only way that would happen is if he made his own sequel, and I don't see that happening, thankfully. For everyone out there saying there should never be an answer to what happened in 1982 when the camera stopped rolling, I agree 100%. I, for one, just like batting around the possibilities with people like yourselves, knowing full well that we can never arrive at one true answer. It's what I dig. To me, it's much more fun than talking about taxes or politics or shit like that. So, if you're like me, stick around, like, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. And leave a comment, we answer them all.